Welcome back to my YouTube channel. High value US coins. Picture this: somewhere in America, right now, a single copper-colored penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a coffee can in a garage, and it carries a headline valuation of $765,000. No gold bars. No stock tips. No crypto charts. Just one small Lincoln cent. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to ask themselves: what if you already own something this valuable and didn't even know it? Stay with me, because today's story is about the 2009 no-mint mark Lincoln log cabin 1-cent error, and why serious collectors are aggressively hunting for it right now. This story begins in 2009, at the height of financial fear. Banks were failing, retirement accounts were bleeding, and confidence in the system was shaken. In the middle of that chaos, the United States Mint released something historic: the Lincoln Bicentennial cents. 4 designs. 4 chapters of Abraham Lincoln's life. And one of them, the log cabin penny, would quietly become a modern legend. No hype. No headlines. Just history stamped into copper, and a mistake hiding in plain sight. If money could whisper, this coin would say, "They overlooked me." Now let me ask you something. Quick pattern interrupt. Have you ever thrown a penny into a jar and thought, this thing is basically worthless? Congratulations. You're normal. And that exact mindset is why fortunes are missed. Because while most people see spare change, elite collectors see opportunity. The 2009 log cabin cent with no mint mark isn't just a penny, it's a moment where history, error, scarcity, and demand collided. And when that happens in numismatics, prices don't creep, they explode. Act 1 is about discovery. The log cabin design represents Lincoln's humble birth, a symbol of beginnings. Ironically, it's often the beginning of a life-changing realization for sellers. Certain no-mint mark examples, especially those tied to striking anomalies and preservation anomalies, have been positioned at the very top of modern coin demand. Private valuations and elite collector benchmarks have pushed this coin into the $750,000 conversation, with $765,000 becoming a figure that has turned heads across the coin market. And once a number like that enters the ecosystem, everything changes. Demand doesn't relax. It tightens. Act 2 is where emotion takes over. Fear enters the room first. Fear of missing out. Fear of having already spent one. Fear of still owning one and not knowing it. Collectors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, people who understand tangible wealth, are aggressively reallocating capital into rare coins. Why? Because rare coins don't blink when markets panic. They don't disappear when companies collapse. And a penny like this, with a powerful American story and microscopic availability, becomes a portable vault. Here's a little humor to reset us. If Lincoln knew one of his pennies would someday outprice luxury cars, he probably would have smiled and said, "Told you I came from humble beginnings." Excitement follows fast. Once you understand that a modern coin, something many people still dismiss, can command life-altering money, your perspective shifts. This is no longer about pocket change. This is about leverage. About knowing what others ignore. About recognizing that the phrase no mint mark can mean the difference between 1 cent and generational wealth. High-end buyers are not asking if these coins will be chased, they are asking who gets there first. And in this market, hesitation is expensive. Act 3 is urgency, and this is where the story closes in on you. Coins like the 2009 no mint mark log cabin cent do not stay quiet forever. Every year, more are authenticated, absorbed into private collections, and locked away. Supply shrinks. Demand intensifies. And the window for discovery narrows. If you're between 30 and 65, living in the United States, there's a very real chance this coin passed through your hands during everyday life. Grocery store change. Gas station counters. Coffee shop tips. The question isn't hypothetical. The question is practical. What do you do next? This is a high-demand asset category, and sophisticated buyers are moving decisively. They understand that once a coin is publicly recognized at elite valuation levels, the market never truly goes backward. It recalibrates upward. The log cabin penny is no longer just part of a commemorative series, it has become a symbol of modern scarcity. And symbols matter. They create stories, and stories create value. So here's the final thought, and it's meant to land with clarity and confidence. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting for someone informed enough to notice. The 2009 no-mint mark Lincoln log cabin 1-cent error has already proven it can command extraordinary money, up to $765,000 in top-tier valuation conversations. And as awareness spreads, the real race begins. Not to buy, but to find, because the most expensive mistake you can make is assuming a penny is just a penny. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the kind hiding in a dusty jar, wedged between sofa cushions, or forgotten in an old dresser, could be worth more than a luxury home? Before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a penny," pause for 1 second. Because in 1977, the United States Mint quietly released a Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark that would later shake the rare coin world. And today, one extraordinary error example has been talked about at values reaching $654,000. That's not pocket change. That's life change. And now here's the part that should make your pulse quicken just a little. Most people who owned these coins had absolutely no idea what they were holding. They spent them. They lost them. They dismissed them. And some still have them right now, without realizing they could be sitting on a 6-figure asset. Imagine the regret of tossing away a fortune because it looked ordinary. Fear creeps in here for a reason, because history proves that the biggest wealth transfers don't always come with flashing lights. Sometimes, they look like a penny. Let's reset for a moment. Quick question. If you found a penny on the ground, would you even bend down to pick it up? Be honest. Most people wouldn't. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because wealth doesn't reward the distracted, it rewards the informed. And today, you're about to become informed. The year is 1977. Inflation is high, America is changing, and the US Mint is producing millions of Lincoln cents. Philadelphia struck pennies traditionally carry no mint mark, so at first glance, a 1977 penny without one seems completely normal. That's where the magic hides, in plain sight. A rare group of these coins left the mint with dramatic minting errors, doubled dies, off-metal strikes, wrong planchets, and precision anomalies so extreme that collectors later realized these were not minor mistakes. They were masterpieces of error. In the coin world, rarity isn't just about age. It's about condition, demand, and story. And this coin has all three. When a 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln cent appears with a verified, high-grade error, especially one authenticated and graded by top-tier services, it ignites bidding wars. Why? Because wealthy collectors don't buy pennies. They buy opportunities. They buy history frozen in metal. And they buy assets that outperform inflation while everyone else is watching the stock ticker. Here's a moment of levity, because even serious money deserves a smile. Somewhere out there, someone once bought a soda with a coin now worth more than a Ferrari. That's funny, until it's not. Until you realize that the same thing could be sitting in your home right now. Old coffee cans. Inherited collections. Childhood piggy banks. This is where excitement takes over, because suddenly the past feels very close and very valuable. The demand is real. High net worth collectors, investment funds, and elite numismatists are aggressively hunting authenticated error coins. Supply is microscopic. Demand is global. And when those two forces collide, prices don't rise politely, they leap. That's how numbers like $654,000 enter the conversation. Not because of hype, but because of scarcity meeting desire in a marketplace fueled by competition. Now we arrive at the most important part of this story, the moment where curiosity turns into action. Because here's the truth few people like to admit: opportunities don't disappear loudly. They fade quietly while others move first. The coin market is no different. As more people become educated, as more collections are searched, the window narrows. The coins don't multiply. They get locked away in vaults, collections, and private estates. Ask yourself this: not someday, not later, but now. What would it mean to discover that something you already own could unlock a new level of freedom? Not just money, but options. Security. A lifestyle where choices are made from strength, not stress. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness meeting timing. There is no downside to knowledge. A penny examined is a penny empowered. And in a market where verified error coins are commanding extraordinary premiums, doing nothing is the riskiest move of all. The people who win in this space aren't guessing. They're checking. They're authenticating. They're positioning themselves ahead of the crowd. So the next time you see a humble 1977 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, don't see it as spare change. See it as a question mark. A possibility. A silent challenger to the idea that wealth only comes from obvious places. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest futures, and if this story has done its job, you're not thinking about pennies anymore. You're thinking about potential. And that's exactly where wealthy thinking begins. Imagine this. Somewhere in America, right now, a penny is sitting in a drawer, a coffee can, or a dusty shoebox. It looks ordinary. It sounds ordinary. But it is not ordinary at all. And if you've ever ignored loose change, this video might be the most expensive mistake you almost made. Because today, we're talking about the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent penny with a rare mint error, an error so desirable that examples tied to headline-level valuations have pushed into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with current market buzz circling around $754,000 for the right coin, in the right condition, at the right moment. Yes, a penny. 1 cent. Let that sink in. And now, before you laugh and say, "I've had thousands of pennies," let me ask you a serious question: have you actually looked at them? Because history doesn't reward people who glance. It rewards people who notice. And in the world of rare coins, noticing is how average Americans quietly step into extraordinary wealth. This story unfolds in 3 acts, and like every great story, it begins with something deceptively small. Act 1 starts in 1978, at the Denver Mint. The United States was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Machines ran fast, quality control was good, but not perfect. And perfection is the enemy of rarity. Somewhere in that production line, a mistake slipped through. A mint error that shouldn't exist, but does. That error, depending on its exact characteristics, strike quality, metal alignment, and preservation, transformed an everyday penny into an object of obsession among elite collectors. This wasn't supposed to happen. That's exactly why it matters. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear: the majority of valuable coins are not found by experts in white gloves. They're found by regular people who didn't throw something away. People just like you. And if that makes you feel a little nervous, good. That nervous feeling is your instincts waking up. Fear isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's an invitation. Now let's reset your attention for a second. Quick question: if I offered you $754,000 in exchange for 1 penny, would you at least check your pockets? Of course you would. You'd probably check twice. And yet millions of Americans toss coins aside every day without a second glance. That disconnect is where opportunity lives. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. This is the moment collectors lean forward. The 1978 Lincoln cent error has become one of those coins that quietly circulates in high-end conversations, auction previews, and private dealer networks. Not because every example is valuable, but because the right example can stop a room cold. We're talking about errors that fundamentally change how the coin was struck. The D mint mark ties it directly to Denver, narrowing the field. The error narrows it even more. And condition? That's the final accelerator. When scarcity, demand, and condition collide, price is no longer logical, it's emotional. Collectors don't buy these coins because they need them. They buy them because they must have them. And when that happens, numbers rise fast. Very fast. This is why you'll hear seasoned dealers say, the market doesn't whisper anymore, it shouts. And right now, the market is shouting about rare Lincoln cent errors. Let me inject a little humor before we go further, because this part always gets people. Somewhere out there, someone once bought coffee with one of these coins. A latte for $754,000. That's not inflation, that's tragedy. Don't be that story. Be the story that other people talk about. Act 3 is urgency, and this is where things get real. The coin market has changed. Information travels faster. Wealthy collectors are younger, sharper, and more aggressive than ever. They don't wait decades. They move now. And when a specific coin type heats up, it doesn't stay quiet for long. Demand compresses supply. Prices spike. And then the window closes. Not forever, but long enough to matter. If you are between 30 and 65 years old, living in the United States, and you have ever inherited coins, saved coins, or casually collected change, you are sitting closer to opportunity than you think. This is not about luck. This is about awareness. The difference between people who sell rare coins for serious money and people who don't is simple: they act before everyone else does. Here's the empowering part. You don't need to be a numismatist. You don't need a vault. You need curiosity and timing. Coins like the 1978 D Lincoln Cent era don't announce themselves. They wait. And the people who win are the ones who finally look closely and say, "What if this is something?" Let me ask you another question, and this one matters. If you discovered tomorrow that you already own something worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, would that change how you see your future? Your freedom? Your lifestyle? Because this is how wealth often arrives, not loudly, but quietly, disguised as something familiar. Right now, the market favors sellers who move with confidence. Collectors are paying premiums for authenticated, high-grade error coins. The appetite is strong. The money is real. And the clock is ticking, not because the opportunity disappears, but because the smartest buyers are already paying attention. So here's your moment. Not to panic. Not to fantasize. But to act with intention. Check your coins. Respect your instincts. And remember this: every major financial breakthrough begins with someone saying, "This might be worth more than it looks." Because sometimes, the smallest coin carries the heaviest weight. Most people think real wealth announces itself loudly. Mansions. Sports cars. Flashy bank accounts. But sometimes, real wealth whispers. Sometimes, it hides in a jar on a shelf, a drawer in the garage, or a coffee can pass down from a parent who said, "Don't throw these away." And today, that whisper could be worth as much as $376,000. Yes, from a single penny. Before you scroll away or laugh and say, "There's no way," let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies you own? This is the story of the 1995 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny error, a coin that has quietly become one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cent discoveries in the U.S. coin market. A coin struck during a time when millions were made, yet only a microscopic number were born different. Imperfect. And in the world of rare coins, imperfection is where fortunes are made. If you think this doesn't concern you, stay with me, because this story has turned ordinary people into six-figure sellers, and it may already be sitting in your home right now. Act 1 begins in Denver, 1995. The U.S. Mint was operating at full speed, producing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation. Everything looked normal on the surface. The same familiar Lincoln portrait. The same copper-plated zinc composition. The same D Mint mark below the date. Nothing special, until something went wrong. Or rather, something went incredibly right. A small number of 1995 D pennies were struck with dramatic mint errors, the kind of errors that shouldn't exist, but do. Die anomalies. Striking abnormalities. Subtle differences invisible to the untrained eye, yet unmistakable to experts. These were not damaged coins. These were mint-created errors, the holy grail category for serious collectors. And here's where the fear sets in. Because for decades, these coins passed through hands unnoticed. Spent. Tossed. Ignored. Lost forever. Let that sink in for a second. What if the most valuable coin you'll ever own already slipped through your fingers? Yeah, uncomfortable thought, isn't it? But then came the discoveries. Collectors began noticing anomalies that didn't belong. Coins that didn't behave like ordinary cents under magnification. Coins that, once professionally authenticated and graded, stunned the numismatic community. One exceptionally preserved, error-rich 1995 D Lincoln cent became a benchmark example, with a valuation that climbed into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, elite collectors recognize that a top-tier, authenticated specimen can command prices reported as high as $376,000 in private transactions in high-end collector circles, and before you say, Well, that's probably just one lucky person. Let me stop you right there. That's exactly what everyone says, right before they find out they had one too. Act 2 is where excitement takes over, because this is where the story becomes personal. This isn't ancient Roman gold or a coin locked behind museum glass. This is a modern US penny. Something you or your parents may have handled without a second thought. The demand for rare Lincoln cent errors has exploded, driven by wealthy collectors who understand one thing very clearly: supply is fixed forever, and demand is only rising. Think about it. No more 1995 D pennies will ever be made. No new errors will magically appear. Every year, more are destroyed, corroded, or discarded. That shrinking supply is exactly why prices climb, and why urgency matters. Collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying certainty. They're buying status. They're buying something no one else can easily replace, and here's the humorous part nobody likes to admit. People will spend hours comparing gas prices to save 10 cents, while unknowingly carrying a penny that could pay off their house. Irony at its finest, right? What separates those who profit from those who don't is awareness in action. Serious buyers are actively searching for these error coins right now. Auction houses, private dealers, and elite collectors are competing quietly, aggressively, and with deep pockets. When a genuine example surfaces, it doesn't sit around waiting. It moves fast, and it moves at premium prices. Act 3 is where everything comes together, and where your decision matters most. Because this is no longer just a story about a coin. It's about opportunity. It's about legacy. It's about understanding that wealth doesn't always come from working harder, but from recognizing value when others overlook it. If you own old pennies, inherited collections, or even rolls saved decades ago, the real risk isn't that they're worthless. The real risk is assuming they are. Fear should work for you here, not against you. Fear of missing out. Fear of giving away something extraordinary. Fear of discovering too late that what you dismissed as spare change could have rewritten your financial future. At the same time, there's excitement. The kind that makes your pulse quicken when you realize this is one of the few opportunities where everyday people can still win big. No insider connections. No Wall Street games. Just knowledge, verification, and timing, and make no mistake, timing matters. The rare coin market rewards those who act before headlines catch up. Once mainstream attention floods in, prices don't politely rise, they leap. Demand becomes emotional. Competitive. Urgent. That's where serious money enters the room. So here's the question that brings this full circle. If a single penny could be worth more than most people make in a decade, would you want to know before it's gone forever? Because history has shown us this truth again and again. Wealth often hides in plain sight. And those who live a truly wealthy lifestyle aren't just lucky. They're informed. They pay attention. They take action while others hesitate. The 1995 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent error isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary value can exist where no one thinks to look. And the only real mistake is not looking at all. If this resonates with you, now is the moment to examine what you own, get professional verification, and position yourself where demand already is. Because opportunities like this don't knock loudly. They whisper. And only those who listen get rewarded. Picture this for a moment. You're holding a penny. Just 1 cent. It's been sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a coffee can in your garage for decades. You've probably ignored it, dismissed it, maybe even spent others just like it without a second thought. Now let me ask you a question that might make you sit up straighter right now. What if that penny was worth more than $500,000? Not someday. Not in theory. Right now. Stay with me, because the 1961 D Lincoln 1 cent with a rare mint error is one of the most talked about and aggressively hunted coins in the United States today, and the top examples have been connected to values approaching $548,000 in the current elite collector market. This story doesn't begin in a vault or a museum. It begins in 1961, at the Denver Mint, during a time when America was booming, money was moving fast, and no one imagined that a small mechanical imperfection could one day rewrite someone's financial future. Millions of pennies rolled off the presses, identical at first glance, but a tiny fraction were born different. A misalignment here. A doubled impression there. A strike that never should have left the building. And yet, it did. That mistake slipped into circulation, unnoticed, unprotected, waiting patiently for someone like you to recognize its power. That's the quiet danger of rare coins. You can own one for years and never know it, until it's too late. Now here's where the fear sets in, and it should. Because every year, priceless error coins are lost forever. Cleaned. Damaged. Cashed in for face value. Or inherited by someone who doesn't know what to look for and lets it go for pennies on the dollar. Let me be very clear and very honest with you. The 1961 Lincoln cent is not valuable because it is old. It is valuable because of specific, high-grade mint errors that only a handful of collectors on the planet can compete for. When one of these elite specimens surfaces, the market doesn't whisper. It roars. Auction houses lean in. Private buyers move fast. And the final price can shock even seasoned professionals. At this point you might be thinking, come on, it's a penny. How exciting can that be? Fair question. But let me flip it on you. What if that penny could fund your retirement, erase debt, or change your lifestyle overnight? Suddenly it's not small anymore, is it? This is where excitement takes over, because serious collectors aren't buying metal. They're buying rarity, history, and bragging rights. A verified 1961 error cent in top condition represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Demand is relentless. Supply is nearly non-existent. And that imbalance is exactly where big money is made. As the story unfolds, we enter the second act, where awareness becomes power. In today's market, wealthy collectors, investment funds, and legacy buyers are actively searching for high-impact U.S. error coins. They want assets that can't be duplicated, inflated, or digitally replaced. A dramatic mint error from the Denver Mint during the early 1960s checks every one of those boxes. This is not a casual hobby anymore. This is a high-stakes marketplace where knowledge separates those who profit from those who miss out. And the people winning right now are the ones who took action before everyone else caught on. Let me pause here and ask you something slightly uncomfortable, but important. How many old coins do you already own that you've never had professionally evaluated? Be honest. Because if you're like most Americans between 30 and 65, you've inherited collections, saved change, or set aside interesting coins without realizing what you might be sitting on. And here's a little humor to reset our brains for a second. If a penny really is worth a penny, then why are millionaires fighting over them behind closed doors? Exactly. Different game. Different rules. Now we move into the final act, and this is where urgency becomes unavoidable. The market does not wait. As awareness grows, competition increases, and prices don't politely rise, they leap. The reason values tied to legendary examples like the 1961 error cent have reached staggering levels is because elite buyers understand something most people don't. Once these coins are locked into long-term collections, they may never resurface. That means every remaining unrecognized coin becomes exponentially more valuable. Time is not neutral here. Time either rewards the informed or punishes the unprepared. This is the moment where inspiration meets authority. You are not late. You are early enough to act. But you must act intelligently. If you believe you may own a 1961 Lincoln cent, especially one that looks off in any way, that coin deserves respect, protection, and professional attention. Do not clean it. Do not spend it. Do not guess. The difference between a curiosity and a life-changing asset is expert verification and timing. And the collectors with the deepest pockets are paying attention right now, not next year. Imagine the confidence of knowing you recognized value where others overlooked it. Imagine the security of turning a forgotten coin into a tangible, powerful financial win. This is not luck. This is awareness meeting opportunity. The 1961 Lincoln 1-cent error is not just a coin. It is a reminder that extraordinary wealth sometimes hides in the most ordinary places. And the only question that truly matters now is this: will you be the person who discovers it, or the one who once owned it and never knew? Stay curious. Stay alert. And remember, history doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who recognize value before the crowd rushes in.